Hi everyone. Let's do a new lesson today. It's called The Wizard of Hockey. So, do you know who the Wizard of Hockey was and why we call him that? He was very famous. He was a famous sports person, and he was called a wizard because people could not believe that he was that good at the sport. He was amazing. The skill he had was unbelievable. Hence, they called him a wizard. He was the wizard of the game hockey because that was the game that he played. He was a famous Indian player. Can you guess who he was? Yes, his name was Dhyan Singh, but he was also called Dhyan Chand Singh. Do you know why he was called Dhyan Chand Singh? Because he was in the army when his hockey career began. And he did not have time to practice the game during the day because of his duties. So he would spend a lot of time during the night practicing. He would be out on the field practicing the game in the moonlight. And so his friends called him Chand because he was in the moonlight every night practicing his game. So he was called Dhyan Chand Singh. So let's learn a little about him because he was so famous. And I'm sure if you type his name in Google, you will find, if you type his name or if you type the best hockey player, the best Indian hockey player, you will see his name appearing there. So there's no doubt at all that he is very famous. Let's find out why. Let's learn a little about this famous hockey player, Dhyan Chand Singh. Shall we? The Wizard of Hockey. Let's begin. Major Dhyan Chand Singh is considered to be one of the greatest hockey players of all time. He was part of the gold-winning Indian hockey team in 3 Olympic Games. Let us read more about him. I have a suggestion for you. If you want to learn this lesson well, of course, it's English literature, so you need to read the text over and over again, and that is the best way to learn English literature. You have to read the text, not once or twice, but several times until you understand it very well. This particular lesson has a lot of important facts that you will need to remember as well. So I suggest that while we go through the text, you could keep a notebook with you and a pen so that you can jot down the points that you need to memorize. There are quite a few of them. So as we go through it, make a note of it and try and memorize them as well. All right, let's begin. It was the final of the Punjab Indian Infantry Hockey Tournament in Jhelum, India. See, right here at the beginning, you have something you need to remember. And please pay attention to how it is written. If you notice, the first letter of each of these words starts with a capital letter, and that is exactly how you need to write it. Okay, let's continue. Dhyan Chand's side was losing the match by 2 goals. With only 4 minutes to go, his commanding officer called out, "Aage badho jawan, kuch to karo Dhyan. Go forward, soldier, do something, Dhyan." Dhyan Chand did go on to do something. He scored 3 goals in 4 minutes. Wow, isn't that something? And led his team to victory. Obviously, they won. Dhyan Chand Singh was born in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India on 29th August 1905. His father, Subedar Sameshwar Dutt Singh, played hockey in the army. Dhyan Singh's family had to frequently move to the different cities where his father was transferred on duty. His schooling suffered as a result, and he stopped going to school after he completed class 6. The family finally settled in a city called Jhansi, where Dhyan's father got a small piece of land to build a house. So Dhyan Chand's father was in the army, and you know that if someone's in the army, they get transferred all the time from one place to another. So the whole family went with him. Because of that, Dhyan Chand could not settle in one school. His schooling suffered a lot. And after he finished class 6, he just stopped going to school. But by that time, his family decided to settle in Jhansi. They bought a plot of land and they built a house. Dhyan was very young at that time. Young Dhyan did not show any special interest in sports, though he loved wrestling. Wrestling was something he really enjoyed, but he was not really interested in hockey. He just played hockey for fun with his friends. In fact, his hockey career had quite an ordinary beginning, nothing spectacular at all. Dhyan and other youngsters used to cut a leaf of a date palm each and pull off the fronds. You know, the date palm leaf has got a stiff center, which is slightly curved on one end, and it has a lot of leaflets on either side. So they pulled off those leaflets and they used the stiff center as a hockey stick. And it was an ideal hockey stick because it had a curve on one end. With a curve at its end, this palm leaf stem would become a makeshift, that means temporary, hockey stick, and they would play with a ball made from old rags. Now they needed a ball and they couldn't get a ball anywhere, so all they did was go home and get a whole lot of old pieces of cloth. That's what old rags are. They tied them together and they made a ball. I've seen children use foil to make a ball. They bring their sandwiches to school wrapped in foil, and then they take out the foil and they crush it into a ball and use that. I mean, children can really be innovative, don't you think so? They'll think of anything. In 1922, at the age of 17, Dhyan Singh joined the Indian Army. He was a sepoy of the 14th Punjab Regiment. While serving in the regiment, he came in contact with Subedar Major Bole Tiwari. Major Tiwari was very fond of hockey and was a good player himself. He recognized the talent in Dhyan Singh. He became Dhyan's guru, and his influence laid the foundations of Dhyan's amazing sports career. So what are they saying? Dhyan Singh joined the army at the age of 17. Very young, but in those days, yes, young men used to join the army at that age. So while he was serving in the army, he met someone called Subedar Major Bole Tiwari. This Major Tiwari was very fond of hockey. He was a very good player also. And when he saw Dhyan Chand playing hockey, he knew that Dhyan Chand had a talent for the game. He knew that he could develop that talent. All Dhyan Chand needed was someone to guide him and teach him. That's all. And he would become a great hockey player. It was Major Tiwari who realized that, the first person to realize this. And so he began to train Dhyan Chand. He became Dhyan's guru. He taught him everything he knew. And his influence laid the foundations of Dhyan's amazing sports career. If Dhyan Chand became famous, it was mainly because of this man who started his career for him. Tiwari and Dhyan Chand had no fixed time to play. They were in the army. You don't get a fixed time to play when you're in the army. So they had to find time for it. Dhyan Chand had to pay attention to army duties and could not find enough time to practice hockey during the day. So he practiced alone on the field at night. I told you in the beginning, that's why his friends called him Chand, because he would practice hockey on the field at night with the moonlight shining there. That's all. While they rested, his army mates could hear him hitting the ball for hours at a time. The legend, this famous story of Dhyan Chand, and his unbelievable feats. If you notice, it's Feats, not Feet, not a part of your body. It's just something that someone does. So it was unbelievable. All the things he did on the hockey field were completely unbelievable, magical. Therefore, he was called the Wizard of Hockey. And his unbelievable feats on the hockey field had begun. In 1926, Dhyan played his first match for India in New Zealand, beginning an international career that lasted 22 years. He played internationally for 22 years of his life. Where did he first start playing? New Zealand. Okay? In the year 1926. After that, Dhyan Chand won gold medals at Olympic Games in Amsterdam in the year 1928, Los Angeles in 1932, and in Berlin in 1936, where he played as captain. Dhyan Chand scored 36 goals in 12 Olympic matches. That is an average of 3 goals a match. Now, that is really something amazing. Dhyan Chand could control the ball so well with his hockey stick that his opponents thought there was some mischief at work. You know who opponents are? People on the opposite team. So the players on the opposite team thought that Dhyan Chand was using some underhand methods to do whatever he was doing. It was not possible that he could control the ball so well with his hockey stick. They just could not believe it. They knew they thought there was some mischief at work, something fishy going on. The Dutch broke his stick to check if there was a magnet inside. Look at that. So the Dutch thought that maybe he had a magnet in the stick that was attracting the ball to it, and that's why he could play so well. So they broke the stick to check if there was a magnet, and of course, there was no magnet inside. Then comes the Japanese. The Japanese thought there was glue on it. Maybe he's put some special kind of glue on the stick so that the ball sticks to it. But that also was not proved at all. And Dhyan Chand's magical stick work drew crowds to the hockey field. Those who even did not like hockey rushed there just to watch the way he was playing. Everyone started talking about him. Everyone just mentioned how wonderfully he played. His skilled stick work and amazing ball control left fellow players and spectators awestruck. They were in awe. They were shocked, so surprised. They just could not believe what they were looking at. Spectators, because people who are watching something are called spectators. The difference between spectators and audience is that an audience will not only watch something, but will see it as well as hear it. But a spectator will only see something, not hear. So that's why we call them spectators. And the spectators were amazed at the way he played. Because of all this, he earned the nickname Hockey Wizard. You know how we all end up with nicknames. So they called him Hockey Wizard. When he played at the Berlin Olympics, a German newspaper carried a banner headline, "The Olympic complex now has a magic show too." The headlines of the newspaper on the first page in Germany was, "The Olympic complex now has a magic show too." What were they referring to? They were referring to Dhyan Chand and the way he played hockey. Dhyan Chand believed in being the best. As a great sportsman, he never lost his temper on the field, but he certainly had the will to win. He played to win. He tried his best, but he never ever lost his temper. Dhyan Chand played with excellent team spirit. He respected his teammates. Even though he was talented, he never boasted or showed off. Never ever told his teammates that only he should take the ball, only he should try and hit a goal, or only he was the best. Never ever did that. He played selflessly. He was not selfish. If he found that one of his teammates was in a better position to score, he would immediately flick the ball to the well-placed player. He was not selfish. He didn't keep the ball only with him, thinking that he was the best. Hockey is a game of 11 players, not of one individual, he always said. At the age of 51, Dhyan Chand retired from the army as a major. The government of India honored him that year by awarding him the Padma Bhushan, which is India's third highest civilian honor. Civilian meaning civilians are ordinary people. Dhyan Chand breathed his last, that means he passed away on 3rd December 1979 in Delhi. A year after his death, the Indian Postal Service issued a commemorative stamp in his honor. They issued a stamp with his picture on it, just to remember him. The Dhyan Chand National Stadium in New Delhi is named in his honor. They had a stadium in New Delhi which they renamed and called it the Dhyan Chand National Stadium, again in his honor. His birth date, 29th August is celebrated as the National Sports Day in India. It's just a way of honoring him and honoring all sports persons. The president gives away sports awards such as the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna, Arjuna Award, and Dronacharya Award on this day at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. In 2002, the Dhyan Chand Award for Lifetime Achievement in Sports and Games was set up to honor those sports persons who have not only contributed to sports through their performance, but continue to contribute to the promotion of sports after retirement from an active sporting career. Great, isn't it? The opening sentence of Dhyan Chand's autobiography reads, what's an autobiography? Something someone writes about himself. If, for example, I am telling the story of my life, it would be an autobiography. But if I am telling the story of your life, I would be writing a biography. You understand the difference? So he had an autobiography, and the first sentence in that is, I am a common man and then a soldier. It has been my training from my very childhood to avoid limelight. That means he didn't want to be the focus of attention. And publicity, again, public attention. I have chosen a profession where I have been taught to be a soldier and nothing beyond that. And he was not so common after all. His skill was the stuff of myths and legends. What they mean is that he was so skilled that it was not ordinary at all. It was not common. It was something that was unbelievable. It seemed to be some kind of a myth or a legend, like a story that doesn't have a lot of truth in it. There will never be another like him. Dhyan Chand's brother Roop Singh, son Ashok Kumar, nephew Chandrasekhar, and granddaughter Neha Singh too had the privilege of representing the national hockey team at the Olympics and various World Cup games. The Singh family has won 5 Olympic gold medals, 1 Olympic bronze, 1 World Cup gold, 1 World Cup silver, and 1 World Cup bronze medal. A lot to remember, isn't it? That's why I said in the beginning, if you jot down each thing as we go through the text, it will make things easier for you. But as I read the text, I hope you were able to understand it and you find this lesson useful. If you do consider subscribing, as you can get notified each time I post new lessons like this, which you might find useful as well. Until we meet again, take care. Cheerio.